Hello and welcome to our course of Environmental Basics and Ecological Foundations, Sustainable Living. In our module number 1, we shall be studying about environmental basics and ecological foundations. To begin with, what is environment? Well, environment refers to everything around us. It's basically our surroundings. So let's understand the environment. Definition. Environment refers to our surroundings. Anything from as simple as the air we breathe to the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the people that we are around, the animals we see, everything is our surroundings. And everything that is around us is our environment. The trees, the birds, the animals, every little abiotic, biotic, ecosystem, biodiversity. These are also the terms that we shall be studying in this module. So let's begin with the definition of environment. The term environment is derived from a French word environia, meaning to surround. Now, as I mentioned, environment is our surrounding. Everything from abiotic, that is non-living, the physical aspect, to the biotic environment, the living environment. Everything is environment. What could be the non-living part of the environment? It could be as simple as the mobile phones that you have, the air that you are breathing, the water that you are drinking. Everything that's not breathing forms a part of the abiotic environment. And what is the biotic environment? The living part of the environment. The pets you have at home, your parents who live with you, your friends, your siblings. An interesting question, are plants biotic or abiotic? Well, we shall cover that as well in this module. Nextly, the word environment means surroundings in which organisms live. What is organism? Everything that has a living existence is an organism. Now let's say this pen is an organism. And what is its environment then? I am its environment. The whole setup of this room is its environment. The air that's touching this pen is an environment. So when the environment and the organisms combine with each other, they form all the complexities of environment. They form systems, they form ecosystems, they form functional part of the ecosystems, from as simple as a food chain to bigger complex things, which shall also be covered in this module. Nextly, environment controls the life of the organisms, including human beings. Now we might think the human beings are almighty and all superior, but that's not true. The human beings are literally at the mercy of environment, and that is why sustainable living is a healthy and conscious choice for us to have a better future, for the coming generations to have a better future. Ordinarily, environment refers to the materials and forces that surround the living organisms. Again, environment is our surroundings. Environmental studies is therefore important because we come in contact with environment every single second. There's not even one microsecond where we're not in touch with the environment. And therefore, the study of environment becomes all the more important. And that's why studying sustainability becomes all the more important. Environment is defined as a surrounding or condition in which a person, animal or plant lives or operate. Now just because a human breathes doesn't mean that plants are not living organisms. Plants comprise of living organisms as well. They do photosynthesis, they do respiration, and all of these biological processes that the plants do also help them to come in contact with the environment, the oxygen that they give, the carbon dioxide that they take in, the nitrogen that leguminous plants fill. What could be a leguminous plant? We will also study about nitrogen fixation in the upcoming modules. All of these processes, all of these surroundings, and all of these conditions in which any organism lives and operates is its environment. What's your environment currently? Your environment is your home. Similarly, our environment is this earth that we live in, the bigger home. And as it's our responsibility to take care of our home, to keep it clean, similarly, sustainably, living greenly, adopting healthy habits is our motive and our duty towards our home, the earth. The environment refers to all elements of the physical and biological world. Now, what is the difference between the physical world and a biological world? Well, a physical world is something that we can see, we can touch, we can feel, whereas the biological world is something that operates in the background. It's something that maybe we cannot see, like the air in this room. I know I'm breathing and there's air in this room, but I cannot see it. But it's part of the bigger biological world. I can hold this pen, makes it a physical world. I can drink water, which is also part of the physical world. That's the difference between physical and biological world. All the interactions that occur in the environment also form a part of the environment. From as simple as the plants doing photosynthesis to us breathing, every little process that comes in contact with an organism is also part of the environment. Let's take an example or a metaphor analogy. Environment is the ever-present backdrop to the story of life. It shapes the characters, you and me, influences the plot, what's going to happen next, like in a movie, and gives context to every interaction. Now, like in a movie, we have actors who have roles, we have a background setting, the movie happening either in, like in the student of the year, the backdrop was the high school, and similarly, in the backdrop of our lives, the environment is the ever-present backdrop. There's not a single example where the environment is not present. And we are the characters. Well, not the main characters, because there are organisms who are doing bigger role than us. As we speak today, the environment is degrading, and sadly we humans are the biggest cause of its big loss. But let's not digress. We shall also cover these in the next module. So the environment influences the plot. What's the plot? We are living. Our life is the plot. What happens to us is influenced by the environment. So we cannot say that the environment we live in will never influence us. It will. We see the air pollution is increasing, and how does it influence us? We're getting sick. People are having respiratory problems. Everyone is coughing. New viruses are coming up. We had COVID-19. And how does it affect us? In every possible way. It gives context to every interaction. Now you and I have to meet. Let's say we will prefer meeting in a good cafe with good air rather than a roadside shop. Why? So that we can drink clean water, we can breathe fresh air, and we can eat good food. So similarly, environment in a larger set, in the bigger cafe of Earth, is something that will influence our plot and give context to all our interactions. An interesting question for you. We're talking about environment. So when do you think is Environment Day celebrated? It's on June 5, July 4th, April 12, or May 5? Well, take a minute to guess, and I shall give you the answer at the end of this topic. What's the scope of environment? To say it simply, everything is environment. But we need to cut it down to a few strategic points. Environment comprises of all living, that is biotic, and non-living, abiotic components. Flora, fauna, human beings, air, water, and land. Everything forms a part of the environment. What is the next scope of environment? Once we know what forms part of the environment, the flora, fauna, human beings, air, water, land, let's next come to the interrelationship between the organisms and their environment. We as humans are not an island. We interact with other human beings. We have pets, or we sometimes love stray animals. There's a lot of interaction between these organisms with their surroundings, and these interactions form relationships. And these relationships then influence both the organisms who are interacting and the environment. Let's take a simple example. You and your friends have to go and watch a movie. Your friend comes in his car, you go in your car to watch the movie. You both have consumed your own amount of fuels, you both have generated your own carbon footprint. Now, do you think it was just the two of you who went to watch the movie and nothing happened to the environment? Well, you're wrong. The environment was damaged. A lot of combustion of the fossil fuels that your vehicles used caused a lot of pollution in the environment. Now, what could be a sustainable choice for you both? You both could have done carpooling, you could have gone on cycles, or you could have used public transport so that the environment was influenced in a little better way. Resources and their optimum utilization. Like the example given before, the resources, especially the non-renewable resources like the fossil fuels, require optimum utilization. A sustainable use of natural resources like water, soil, minerals, forest, and fossil fuels. Water. We are aware that on an international level, many water treaties have been signed and suspended. We're also aware that within India, states have been fighting for years over water. Why is that so? Why something as basic as right to a clean access of water becomes a fight for water? Because the water levels are falling at an unfathomable rate. The water is degrading, the quality is falling, the groundwater is depleting, and now there is a fight for even a single drop of water. So the optimum utilization is another subcategory of sustainable living where we make conscious choices to not waste something erratically. Soil. We're aware that a lot of chemicals, fertilizers, herbicides, insecticides are being used, and the quality of soil and hence the quality of the produce of that soil is deteriorating. We see that many little kids are affected when wrong quality of food goes inside their stomach and their sensitive digestive systems fail to it. Minerals. Minerals in the earth are nature's gift to us, but over-exploitation of the same leads to killing the nature. Forests. Forests are being depleted at a very high rate. Of course, urbanization is important, infrastructure development is important, but so is important a balanced approach. We cannot cut forests at a rate where oxygen levels fall, where there is less afforestation, where the forest cover overall falls so badly that the quality of air gets horrible to breathe. Fossil fuels, the example of your cars. Let's be conscious. Let's not make erratic choices. Let's make thoughtful, healthy, environment-friendly, eco-friendly choices. These are not just verbal jingos and lingos that you might be listening to be eco-friendly, go green. No. These have to be our conscious, healthy choices on an everyday basis. Why? The why will be studied in the modules in a very high detail where we see how the environment is suffering and consequently so are the humans and the other animals and flora and fauna. Next in the scope of environment is impact assessment of human activities. The effects of industrialization, urbanization, agriculture and technological development on ecosystems. Impact assessment of human activities. If we think that what we do has no impact on the environment, we are horribly mistaken. If every person thinks, मेरे करने से क्या होगा? That's very wrong of an approach. Even a single step counts. Even if you use a little less mobile phone will reduce your personal carbon footprint and will help the environment even if a little. The effects of industrialization. Although industrialization is very important for development, for coping up with international standards, to build a strong urban culture, But at the same time, the impact assessment must be made. What is impact assessment? Impact assessment refers to knowing what consequences a particular act has, to weigh the pros and the cons and see if a sustainable living can be made out of the process that we are undergoing. Urbanization. Similarly, there has been a lot of efflux of people from the rural areas to the urban areas for the jobs, for better living, and whatnot. But at the same time, the urban cities have become humongously crowded. The concrete forests have replaced the green, lush trees, and because of that, the forest cover is reducing, the concrete jungle is increasing. By concrete jungle, I mean the big buildings that are being raised to fill in the population. A high rise in population requires more flats, more houses, involves more vehicles, involves more traffic, and all of that again has an impact on the environment. The water qualities go down, the air gets polluted, the plants are cut. Agriculture. Agriculture is at its lowest possible position right now. India was primarily an agrarian economy, but the plight of agriculture is not new. In agriculture today, farmers know that the quality of soil itself, which used to be so fertile on its own because of the healthy rivers that sent across rich nutrients to it, the alluvial soil that we had, the fertile soil that we had, everything is now going downhill. And the use of chemicals, the use of insecticides, the use of herbicides, the use of pesticides has downgraded the quality of the soil, which in turn leads to more of an input to the land and less of a better output. So such a chemical intensive agriculture has a negative impact on environment again. Technological development. As important as technology is, it again causes a harmful impact on human beings and the environment again. So we again need to make conscious choices as to how technology can be incorporated in a way that there's a sustainable living. The Sustainable Development Goals Agenda 2030, which we shall also be covering in another module in a fully fledged manner, is something that talks about this development. It says about how we can use the optimum utilization of resources to also create a healthy balance in the ecosystems. What is an ecosystem? As simply, like you live in your home with your parents, your siblings, your grandparents, your pets, the television, the air, every little thing forms a little ecosystem at your home. That ecosystem on a larger level, on the level of earth, is a bigger ecosystem where there's a tiny microbe to the largest of elephants, the whales, the aquatic animals, the terrestrial animals, to us the human beings, to the buildings that we have raised, to the trees that we have cut, everything big to small, the air that we cannot see, oxygen, the carbon dioxide, nitrogen, sulfur, everything that's there forms a part of the ecosystem. So an impact assessment of human activities is an essential part under the scope of environment, because today the impact of human activities on the environment is beyond what we can imagine. Next scope of environment is the environmental issues and challenges. The impact assessment that we talked can be studied under the environmental issues and challenges that we are facing today. Understanding pollution, climate change, deforestation, soil erosion, waste management becomes essential under sustainable living and environmental studies. Why? Because until we don't know what this thing is, we cannot possibly find a cure. Similarly, like in COVID-19, until we did not know what the virus is, we could not find a solution to it. So if we don't understand pollution, if we don't understand climate change, if we don't understand the impacts of deforestation and forest felling, the impacts that the soil erosion is having, we cannot possibly have a solution to it. And waste management can begin from our homes. So a person saying मेरे अकेले करने से क्या होगा can make a big difference in saving the environment. We shall be studying pollution, climate change, deforestation, soil erosion, and waste management in a lot of extensive detail, because understanding the same, understanding the challenges that we are facing would help us also find solutions. And there are various startups in the American countries who have found solutions, which shall also be discussed. Strategic aspect: conservation of biodiversity, environment protection laws, policies and sustainable practices. Well, strategically speaking, conservation is very important. Why? So that the future generations can live. The answer is as simple as that. We have borrowed this present from our ancestors and we owe something to the future generations. Environment protection laws. There are various environment protection laws: the Air Act, the Water Act, the Forest Protection Act. Everything talks about how can we protect forest, what particular trees not to cut, what particular trees not to grow. But are we aware? The policies of the government, the sustainable practices, there's a lot being said. But are we aware? Well, this course and this module is specifically designed to make us aware. Why understanding the environment matters? The answer could be as simple as being a good citizen, being a good human being is why studying the environment matters. Survival. You and I and the future generations will need air, water, and food to sustain life on Earth. And where do we get it from? We get it from the environment. So, for the sake of survival, studying the environment becomes very important. Ecological balance, ecosystems regulate natural cycles like carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, water cycle, ensuring a balance in nature. Now, we might be aware of the balance that we maintain in our Google Pay, in our Paytm wallets, but that's something we do: the credit, the debt, the expenditure, the income. But who is maintaining something on the environmental level? It's the nature doing that on its own, the ecological balance. So to do our bit, it becomes important to study the environment. Addressing environmental challenges. We need to address these challenges so that we can combat the problems. We need to understand environment to do our part in attaining the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development Goals. And lastly, it's our ethical and moral responsibility to protect nature. Why? Is something we should know on our own. Now, before we end, let's go back to our question: when is Environment Day celebrated? I hope you got the answer right. The answer is June 5. So, a quick recap today: what is the environment, what is the scope, and what we shall be studying ahead. I hope everything is clear. See you for the next topic.